Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, everyone. Good to see you. Hope this finds you in good health and secure. Chapter 5 of the Lotus Sutra, according to the BDK translation of Kumarajiva's Chinese translation, albeit a copy of that translation. I said all of that in the preface, so you already know. Thereupon the Bhagavat addressed Mahakashyapa and other great disciples, saying, "Splendid, splendid." You understand what I'm talking about. O Kashyapa, you have skillfully explained the real merit of the Tathagata. In other words, the reward aspect of awakening your Buddha mind, right? It is exactly as you have said. The Tathagata has immeasurable, unlimited, and incalculable merits or rewards or fine functions, yeah? Thus, even in a period of immeasurable kotas of kalpas, you will never fully be able to explain all of his merits. If the Buddha-ness has comprehension of everything that's ever been put into momentum, the engine of life itself, of the universe, how could you possibly, with words, capture every one of those insights? Right? O Kashyapa, you should know that the Tathagata is the king of all the teachings. Buddha-ness is the highest achievement for a sentient mind. That's what that says. What he teaches is never false. He explains all the teaching using his wisdom and skillful means, and what he teaches leads everyone to the stage of omniscience, of all-knowingness, of clarity. The Tathagata perceives the goal of all teachings and knows the underlying mental disposition of all sentient beings, perceiving all with no obstructions. He completely understands all teachings and displays omniscience to all sentient beings. So this is Shakyamuni saying, these are the tools of Buddha-ness, and as you've so skillfully explained in the previous chapter, it's critical to understand the minds of others. You can't just start pounding people over the head with what you know or what you think you know or your experience. See, Shakyamuni started out that way, right? The Avatamsaka Sutra, his first teaching after he attained an awakening, enlightenment, nobody understood it, or him. It was like he was speaking in some alien language. I mean, they could hear the words, it just made no sense to them. And he only taught the Avatamsaka, the flower garland, that first Kigon Sutra, if you know it by the Japanese name, for 2-3 weeks. And he stopped and went, duh. I have to raise the consciousness of these people, that the capacity to even understand the concepts that I'm just throwing out there like it's already known. I've got to build up their idea of how their minds work. They don't understand. They've been living in this magical, mystical plethora of thinking and completely devoid of agency in their own life. And here I am telling them, this is what you achieve when you have agency in your own life. And they're like, we have what? You know? So this is why he's so concerned in these first 5 chapters. Everything's been about why we use skillful means, why he used skillful means, why we should do the same. But in order to be able to even come up with skillful means, right? Analogies and things that relate to the people we're talking to, we have to have a fairly good idea of how the people we're talking to see the world, how they understand things. And what's the only possible way that you could do that? Right? Just regular conversation. Get to know someone. So if somebody comes to you, I don't care if they come to you, man, I've heard so much about this Buddhism. I know that you do it. I want you to teach me. Don't just dive into the deep end, right? Appreciate their ichinen, their will, their desire. Wow, that's great. Let's chant for a little while. Okay. And they're excited. So, oh, wow, how does this work? What does this work? What do those words mean? How many times have I heard that? What do those words mean? Well, they're placeholders. They're not really, it's not like language that a word has an actual association with either a thing or a place, right? Noun, verb, blah, 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 blah. These aren't words. These are invocations of a huge idea of how the universe works, how all phenomena work, you and I included. So it's a big subject, but bear with me. We'll chant. We'll start taking it apart little by little, and you'll get more and more insights, deeper understandings as we go. How about that? Skillful means. Yeah? And so what he's saying is he, as the fully enlightened person that he is, speaking not as Shakyamuni, but as Buddha-ness. If Buddha-ness were to have a voice, just like when we chant, Shakyamuni takes on the voice of enlightenment. And so you see the pronouns here are all he, his, my, I. But remember, all of these sermons were taught orally for us to repeat. Big clue there. Because when we repeat and recite these very words, we're not saying Shakyamuni said, we're saying I did this, I have, right? Because it's Buddha, our mindset, that's talking. So we own it right away. That's pretty darn clever, yeah? So here he is, he's saying, I have perfect understanding of all sentient beings. Wow, you talk about a leg up, yeah? So he knows exactly what people need to hear. Maybe not what they want to hear, but he knows what they need to hear. And that's what we need to hone our skills in. That's why study is so important. Not only so it can help us understand others, because as we change our momentum, we see things about ourselves that help us to understand others. And through conversation, we hear others' concerns and their habits. Don't judge them. Don't try to be a great psychologist. Just hear them and understand that there are certain teachings that might touch their minds, touch their hearts, touch their way of perceiving the world. Because we're not trying to give them our insights, we're trying to get them to find their insights from within their path. See, people forget that a lot, right? Some of us are imbued with the teaching gene, and we just want to tell people things. But we need to hone that skill. It's not good enough to just tell people. We have to tell them things that help them to understand. We want to create teachers out of them, and they need to do that from their own heart and their own mind. O Kashyapa, suppose in the great manifold cosmos, there are mountains, rivers, valleys, and plains, where many kinds of grasses, trees, shrubs, and herbs of different names and colors grow. Not even going to talk about people now. Dense clouds thoroughly cover this great manifold cosmos, and rain falls at the same time everywhere, moistening the small, medium, and large roots, stems, branches, and leaves of all the grasses, trees, shrubs, and herbs. You feel an analogy coming here? The sizes of all the trees depend on whether their capacities are superior, mediocre, or inferior, and the rain falling from the same cloud makes them grow according to the nature of their various seeds. You already get it, right? The capacities of these different trees and shrubs. Flowers blossom in the same place, and fruits ripens in the same place, moistened by the same rain, yet there are differences among these grasses and trees. O Kashyapa, you should know that the Tathagata is exactly like this. He appears in this world like a great overspreading cloud. His great voice resounds over the devas, humans, and asuras in the world, just as the great cloud thoroughly covers the great manifold cosmos. He declares to the assembly, I am the Tathagata, a completely enlightened, perfect in knowledge and conduct, well-departed, knower of the world, unsurpassed, tamer of humans, teacher of devas and humans, Buddha, Bhagavat. I set free those who have not been freed. I enlighten those who have not been enlightened, and bring calm to those who have not been calmed. I cause those to obtain nirvana who have not yet obtained it. I am the one who knows the present and future worlds exactly as they are. I am the all-knower, the all-seer, the knower of the path, the one who discloses the path and explains it. All of you, devas, humans, and asuras, come and listen to my teachings. Right? The rain falls equally everywhere. At that time, innumerable thousands of myriads of kodas of sentient beings approach the Buddha and listen to his teaching. They do as he just said. Then the Tathagata, perceiving the faculties of sentient beings, whether they are sharp or dull or diligent or idle, explains the teachings according to their capacities in a variety of immeasurable ways, gladdening and benefiting them all, which suggests he speaks to them each individually. The illustration's a little, Just like the great cloud, having heard his teachings, all of these beings are at peace in this world and are born into a good existence in the future, moment to moment, right? They achieve enlightenment in the next moment, in that moment carried into the next, right? This is a story of momentum, yeah? Through this, they will receive peace of mind and be able to hear the teaching even further, right? Having already heard the teaching, they will become free from obstructions and be able to gradually enter the path to the Dharma according to their capacities. Now that would almost seem a contradiction, wouldn't it? So he's enlightened everybody, but not really. He's enlightened them as to the path, but it's something they have to continue to do moment to moment. You don't just get a package from Amazon and go, here's my enlightenment, ta-da, right? It's something you have to follow a path, to practice, to engage with moment to moment. So he frees them from obstructions, meaning that now you know how phenomena work. So if you get held up by your greed or possessiveness or attachment, throwing your personal energy into the past, then you're creating your obstacle, and you should know, because I've taught it, that you have now become the obstacle. So get out of your own way, right? And this is how, day to day, we, quote, gradually enter the path to the Dharma according to their capacities. How resolute are you? How confident are you? Just like the great cloud that rains upon all the grasses, trees, shrubs, and herbs, whose seeds are watered and which grow according to their capacities, the Tathagata teaches the Dharma of one aspect and character, that is to say, the character of liberation, dispassion, and cessation, which ultimately leads to omniscience. Those sentient beings who hear, hold, and recite the teachings of the Tathagata and practice it accordingly will nevertheless not perceive the merit that they have obtained. Not fully, because we're still samsaric being. This is why the effort must be continuous, yeah? Why is this? Only the Tathagata knows the seed, the ultimate truth, meaning without time. See, time is this component of momentum that keeps us constantly in a bit of a slippage, yeah? Like a CVT, if you know anything about that. Only he knows what they contemplate, think, and practice, how they contemplate, think, and practice, what teachings they contemplate, think, and practice, and what teachings they obtain through what teaching. I've talked about this before. Just because you have a mandala and a butsudan and an altar, and you sit in front of it and you chant, are you? Are you just playing at Buddhism? Are you committed? Are you voraciously demanding of your mind to stop monkeying around, stop wanting things, and dedicate yourself to instantiating your Buddha-ness? What could be more important, more valuable, more awesome? And yet, our monkey minds, right? What time is it? How much time do I have? Man, I'm going to court today. Damn, I need help. All of that, yeah, great. That's samsara, understood. But chanting about that is your attachment to it. It's not going to help. Chanting will work to spite your monkey mind, but how much more efficient is it to chant directly for Buddha-ness? Because Buddha-ness understands everything. Let your Buddha-ness sort it out. Chant single-mindedly to meet Buddha. Nichiren's words, yeah? He knew. Only the Tathagata exactly perceives and knows without obstructions the various states in which sentient beings reside. It is just like the grasses, trees, shrubs, and herbs that do not know their own natures, whether they are superior, mediocre, or inferior. And who judges that ultimately, yeah? Yet the Tathagata knows the teachings of one aspect and character, the character of liberation. Dispassion, cessation, complete nirvana, and eternal, in other words, without the constructs of time, or constrictures of time, I might say, tranquility, which ultimately leads to emptiness. Now, we have to understand what this means by emptiness. And obviously, BDK, I say again, is greatly influenced by earlier teachings, which is an odd thing to bring into the Lotus Sutra, don't you think? But the rhetoric, like the constant reminder of Arhat, which isn't truly Lotus Sutra. It's not even truly Mahayana, right? Mahayana does not count Arhat as the level to which the BDK is using it in the Lotus Sutra. The Bodhisattva far superior to the Arhat. But I have videos about that. You can check that out. Emptiness, as you know, doesn't mean nothingness or void, other words that are often used. It simply means that the nature of things are impermanent, that they're constantly instantiating from potential. And the moment something instantiates, it has a brief duration, it influences the next moment, But the previous moments, they're just past. They no longer are. They are past, right? They don't evaporate, but they're following their own path of dissolution until they are extinct. They go back to quiescence. So why do we hang on to them? Like we must keep them going, that permanentizing samsaric brain, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. There may be repercussions in the now because of things in the past, but that doesn't mean they still exist. We need to deal with the repercussion. That's real. That's now. Does it make sense? Somehow it seems subtle and yet really dramatic, a difference in perception. The Buddha knows this and perceives the aspirations of sentient beings. For this reason, in order to protect them, he does not immediately teach omniscience. There's skillful means again, right? Because he learned himself. Trying to teach omniscience with the Avatamsaka, in many ways, doesn't work. Right? You have to reach into people's particular capacities. O Kashyapa, it is a rare thing that all of you know that the Tathagata teaches according to your capacities, and that you believe and accept it. That you understand that you're on a path. Why is this? Because the Dharma taught by all the Buddha Bhagavats, according to what is appropriate to sentient beings, is difficult to understand and difficult to know. Well, if all of my interjections here aren't enough evidence for that. Thereupon the Bhagavat, wanting to elaborate on the meaning of this, further spoke in these verses. Okay, I don't know if this is a short chapter, so we won't get to the end of it today, but we'll get a good ways into it. The king of the Dharma, the destroyer of delusive existence, appears in the world, and keeping in mind the aspirations of sentient beings, teaches the Dharma in various ways, according to the wishes of the sentient beings. Wishes they may not actually be aware of, right? The Tathagata is greatly distinguished, and his wisdom is profound. He's talking about Buddha-ness, yeah? He has been silent for a long time, and intentionally has not taught the essential in haste. See, slow your roll. Those who are wise will be well convinced when they hear it. Those who are not wise will have doubts and remain confused for a long time. Now, when he says not wise, he's not saying stupid. He's just saying not yet exposed to, not yet of the capacity where that Buddha wisdom, that insight has occurred yet. So they just don't know yet, right? That is why, O Kashyapa, the Tathagata teaches according to the capacities of sentient beings and enables them to attain the correct perspective by using various illustrations. O Kashyapa, you should know that it is as if a great cloud arises in the world and covers everything. This beneficent cloud contains moisture, and bright lightning flashes from it. The sound of its thunder shakes the earth afar and gladdens the people. It conceals the sun and cools the earth. The spreading cloud hangs so low as if it could be touched. Everywhere, equal and immeasurable, the rain pours down and moistens the earth. Grasses, herbs, large and small trees, all kinds of crops, seedlings, sugarcane, and grapes, growing in the depths of the mountains and rivers and in precipitous valleys, are all watered and completely nourished by the rain. The dry earth is moistened everywhere, and the herbs and trees grow up thickly. Out of this cloud, the same rain waters these grasses, trees, and shrubs each according to their capacities. All the trees, small, medium, or large, are able to grow in accordance with their capacities. The luster and colors of the roots, stems, branches, leaves, and flowers are all freshened by the same rain. Each of these, although receiving the same moisture, reaches a greater or lesser size, in accordance with their different dispositions, characteristics, and natures. The Buddha is exactly like this. He appears in the world as a great cloud, which covers everything universally. Once appearing in this world, he illuminates and explains the essence of the teachings for the sake of sentient beings. The great seer, the Bhagavat, expounds this to the assembly of all the devas and humans. I am the Tathagata, the best of humans. I appear in the world to nourish sentient beings, just as the great cloud moistens all the withered trees. I cause everyone to be rid of suffering and attain ease of heart, worldly happiness, and joy of nirvana. So devas and humans, listen carefully. Come, all of you, and look at the highest one, the thus come one, yes? I am the Bhagavat. No one is equal to me. I appear in this world to bring peace of mind to sentient beings and to teach the Dharma of immortality to the great assembly. Immortality, you shouldn't hear as the Western connotation of immortality. In fact, you know what? I may add that to the new book, because that's really confusing. Mortality. Why do I say this? In the context of Buddhism, certainly the Lotus Sutra, immortality isn't about an eternal being. See, that's where the Western mind, not just the Western mind, the religious mind goes, because we want to have this afterlife, right? But that's not what immortality means. Immortality in Buddhism is the flip side of impermanence. To think of things, right? The hanging on, the attaching, the clinging, right? The craving. That's about making something continue that is over. And to us, that's mortality. That's the cycle of birth and death. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. Birth, rebirth, death, birth, rebirth, death. Sorry, rebirth, death, rebirth, death, rebirth, death. I can't say that easily. But that's really what's going on, right? Rebirth, although slightly modified by the previous moment. We've talked about this ad nauseum, right? The engine of life. But our samsaric perception of that is that there's an actual death. We should change our understanding of the cycle of birth and death as really start-stop or beginning-end. That's really what it is. It's the beginning of a moment and the end of a moment. It's an instantiation, which has in its fundamental nature no time. The time is in the momentum of one after another, which is where you and I, samsarically, monkey mind, trying to hang on, creates this idea of mortality. Something has died. But it hasn't. It's going through its mechanism, its process. Here I am, here I am, here I am, here I am. Through time, it persists as an experience, but it does not persist as a thing. It's so important to get that. So in that context, immortality isn't to exist forever. Immortality is there's no mortality going on. There's just the process of life. What a tremendous insight. So easily missed, though. And I've just said it in a new way, so maybe those of you who haven't been able to grapple with that, maybe having said it in this way, He'd be, oh, I finally get it, right? That's what this resource is about, if you haven't picked up on that yet. So again, a word, I don't know if I'd use that word because it's very misleading, isn't it? And to teach the Dharma of immortality. What is the Dharma? The Dharma is the experience. So if you experience what they're saying is immortality here, what you are experiencing is the now, no mortality, which is the process of life, which is without time. Oops, lost myself. Okay, to the Great Assembly. This Dharma has a single flavor of liberation and nirvana. I expound its meaning with the same subtle voice, always making the Mahayana the subject of my illustrations. I see everywhere and regard all as equal. I have no feelings of like or dislike. There's no good or bad, right? You hear people talking about good karma, bad karma. Well, I obviously didn't read the Lotus Sutra. For me, there is no this or that. See, if there's no this or that, no distinctions, but only a process, the distinctions come from permanentizing, you see. So if there is no permanentizing and everything is the process of life, then what need is there for mortality? Nor do I have either love or hate. Now that's important, right? I have no attachments and make no distinctions, and so always I teach the Dharma equally to all, and teach the same thing to one person as I teach it to everyone else. He teaches the same Dharma, but the way he illustrates that Dharma would be different depending on the capacity of the sentient mind he's addressing. That's made abundantly clear here, yeah? I always teach the Dharma and nothing else, right? I don't teach model making or vegetable gardening. I may use those examples in samsara to lead to an insight of meaning always about the Dharma. Going or coming, sitting or standing, I never tire of satisfying the world. Just like the rain that gives nourishment universally, I tirelessly pour down the rain of the Dharma, equally on those who are noble or humble, superior or inferior, who keep or break the precepts, who have good or bad conduct, right or wrong views, sharp or dull faculties, according to their power to understand. All sentient beings who hear my teaching dwell in various stages. Those living among humans, devas, noble emperors, Shakra, and Brahma kings are like the small herbs. Those who know the incorruptible Dharma, who are able to attain nirvana, have the 6 transcendental powers and have attained the 3 sciences. I've often said Buddhism is like a science because of its rigor, its methodology. You know? Those who live alone in mountain forests, always practicing meditation and who attain the enlightenment of the Pratyekabuddhas, are like the medium-sized herbs. Those who seek the stage of the Bhagavat, thinking that they will become Buddhas, all practice persistence and meditation, are like that large herbs. The heirs of the Buddhas, who concentrate on the path of the Buddha, who always cultivate compassion within themselves and know definitely, without a doubt, that they will become Buddhas, are like the small trees. Those who are comfortable with transcendental powers, who turn the irreversible wheel of the Dharma, and save innumerable hundreds of thousands of kotis of sentient beings are bodhisattvas, who are like the large trees. The Buddha's equal teaching is like the rain of one flavor. The sentient beings accept it according to their different capacities, just as the grasses and trees each differently absorb the rain. The Buddha reveals the single teaching with illustrations using skillful means and explains it with various explanations. And yet, it is just a drop in the ocean compared to the Buddha's wisdom. I pour down the rain of the Dharma, fulfilling the world, and the sentient beings practice the Dharma of one flavor according to their capacities. Huh? Let's go for it. Just as the shrubs, herbs, and trees flourish in accordance with their capacities, reaching either a greater or lesser size, the teaching of the Buddha is always of one flavor and fulfills the entire world. Anyone who practices it little by little obtains the fruit of the path. The Sravakas and Pratyekabuddhas, living in mountain forests, who in their last bodies hear the Dharma and attain its fruit, are just like the flourishing herbs. The Bodhisattvas, who are firm in wisdom, who completely understand the triple world and seek the highest vehicle, are just like the flourishing small trees. Those who abide in meditation attain transcendental powers, listening to the teachings regarding the emptiness of every existence with great joy, and save sentient beings by emitting innumerable rays of light, are just like the flourishing large trees. In this way, O Kashyapa, the Dharma that the Buddha teaches is just like the great cloud that enriches human flowers with the rain of one flavor, so that each attains its fruits. O Kashyapa, you should know that I reveal the Buddha path using various explanations and illustrations, and that this is my skillful means. All of the Buddhas are just like this. You, me, right? I will now teach the highest truth for your sake. Oh, we're finally getting to it. There are no Sravakas who attain nirvana. What? What you practice is the Bodhisattva path. And if you practice step by step, you will all become Buddhas. Whoa! His last little breath out of everything he said. Talk about a drop the mic moment. Right? For decades, he's been telling Sravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, Arhats, you're not all the way there. You're just not. You're never going to attain Buddhahood. You may attain some level of liberation, but not complete, not perfect. If you want to attain Buddhahood, you guys, you're too full of yourselves. You're too arrogant. You're limited, right? And now, in the last stanza, these 4 little sentences, he goes, what you think you've been practicing, Sravakas, Pratyekabuddhas, Arhats, you're not practicing those things. You're practicing to your limited capacity because I've been teaching the same thing all along. So what you now, and he says it, I will now teach the highest truth for your sake, so that you know, get unglued from what you think is the path and understand something at whatever level you're working at. There are no Sravakas who attain nirvana. No matter how hard you pursue that path, that program you've outlined for yourselves, you'll never succeed, because that's not the end-all, be-all path. It's just a step. What you practice is the Bodhisattva path. Whoa! So pay attention, because the Lotus Sutra is about the Bodhisattva path. And if you practice step by step, you will all become Buddhas. First time. We too, which is why earlier Shariputra was in shock. We can become Buddhas, so he's reiterating it again. But he's relating it to the path, the school that they've limited themselves as this is all we can understand. And he's telling them step by step, you need to take the next step. So, chapter 6, prediction. This is very, very much, it's detailed, but it's very much in a chronological sense of the teaching. If you get this, then this. If you get this, then this. Now he's ready to move into, right, the meat. Well, maybe not quite yet. But we will learn in chapter 6. This is what you have to look forward to. And then in chapter 7, the apparitional city, again, we're still talking about developing this motivation to practice fully. So it takes its time. That's why the first half of the Lotus Sutra is mostly seen as preparatory, but it's not until the second half, and Nichiren will tell you this, that now that you're prepared, now that you have the idea, I've given you enough illustrations and explanations, this is your goal. We're not there yet, but he's making the ground. He's fertilizing the soil, right? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for listening, for participating. Thank you, mostly, for your resolute practice. That's what makes it all happen, yes? All right. Thank you for your support. A few seconds, like and subscribe. If you can make use of the full resource here, a lot of free stuff, information on threefoldlotus.com, the ebooks, the print books, the mandala. A lot of people I get new people subscribing to the podcasts all the time, so a lot of you are enjoying that. Anything I can do to support your practice, that's what this resource is about. And anything you do to support this resource is Bodhisattva work, right? Because it helps through the algorithms and through financial support to continue building this resource. So thank you for your input, your emails, your comments. All of it is tremendously meaningful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Patrons, Bodhisattvas all. Take care of your health. Please be kind to yourself. Take care of your health. Help others do the same. And I will see you in the next one, okay? Chapter, what is it? 6? We're making some headway. Take care. Bye for now.